Hi, what's up, agency owners? Jason Swank here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass. And on today, I have an amazing agency owner. She hasn't been doing it long, but she's been doing it a long time, but just not for herself. And so we're going to talk about her journey of building over a seven-figure agency in 1 year and talk about how she did it, what she learned from it. And also, I think we're going to get into why did she want to leave the agency that she was actually running to own it herself? So you guys don't lose your key employees as well. So welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I was excited to chat with you. You were actually from my hometown in Panama City, Florida, and it was kind of funny on the pre-show. We were going over a lot of people that we both know. You went to Florida State too, so that's always good to have fellow Knowles on the podcast. Maybe I should just do a Knoll podcast.
I like it. I think it's good. There's a lot of us and we're
That's
pretty
right.
smart, so
That's right. That's not what our Gators say, but that's fine. They live in a
yeah.
different world. Tell us, how did you get started in the agency world? Was it by accident or was it intentional?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually accidental. I started my career at General Mills in Minneapolis. I did an internship over the summer. So that was my first taste of PR. I got to work on a nationwide media tour with Colombo Yogurt, the brand, and the U.S. Women's Olympic Hockey Team. And I did things like, make sure everyone has a hotel room, make sure that the bus is going to show up at the right spot. So I was doing the real basic stuff over the summer, but it was my first taste of, okay, this is interesting. You can create events, you can create moments that are newsworthy, and you can bring people together. And so I was really wanting to get out of the Southeast where I had grown up my whole life and wanted to just, kind of spread my wings. So I met a lot of people there in Minneapolis who knew a lot of people in Chicago and got me some interviews. So I moved down to Chicago sight unseen, and I have never left.
Talk about, you were running an agency for someone else for many years. What did you learn there? Like if you could go back and tell yourself, what did you learn? What was the biggest thing you learned?
I mean, the biggest thing that I learned was how to run a business. I was lucky to have an undergrad in business and then I got an MBA. So I understood the nuts and bolts of, how to read a balance sheet and those kinds of things that you learn in school. But putting that into practice, sometimes when you're in the PR industry, people will say, oh, you don't need to get an MBA. You don't need to get, any sort of secondary degree. But in addition to doing PR work, was running a business. And so I really learned how to apply that knowledge and understand profitability and understand cash flow and, how much payroll we should have to revenue and, what our expenses should be like and how do we manage to that. So, I think that was what was invaluable is just really the nuts and bolts of agency management is what I learned there because the PR skills and the intuition and the knowledge is something that I kind of developed on my own and was able to flex that muscle, but really running the business was a huge lesson.
And when you were running that agency, did the owner or owners, did they step out or did they take more of like a back seat, or what was that dynamic there? How did that happen?
So the agency that I really grew up in and was there for 19 years is Kemper Lesnick. I still have a lot of love for that company. It is a part of Kemper Sports, which is a larger organization that owns and operates 130 plus golf and sports properties across the country. And so the agency business was one piece of, was a property of Kemper Sports. And the owners were very busy with so many pieces of their, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars in business. So I was taking care of this portion of the business and then the agency, and they were very kind of let me run a lot of the business there. And that's how I got to be, really kind of managing it. And that's why I had a lot of autonomy in doing that because they learned over time to trust me that I was going to deliver financial results and I could manage the people, and so that got me to the point where, they kind of left me alone to do what I needed to do and make it happen.
What was the hardest thing about learning how to manage people?
I think the hardest thing is I always say perspective is a beautiful thing. When you're young, you don't really have a lot of it, and you think you know a lot more than you do. And I think in the early days, I made a lot of mistakes with maybe caring about the function that the person delivers, but not necessarily spending a lot of time on the whole person. And I've learned that over time. The people that work with me at Stretch PR, some of them I worked with in the past, and I have so many great people that I've worked with over my career that I would love to work with again. And I think that is looking at them as whole people and caring about people and supporting each other throughout, people having kids, people having sick parents. You have to really be there for everyone, versus like this person isn't delivering because they have something going on in their personal lives. And I think when I was younger, I was probably a little more hard nosed at that sort of thing. And today, especially post pandemic, I think we all have a lot more, we give each other a lot more grace than we probably did in the past.
Yeah. What would have kept you there? What would have kept you from not starting your agency?
I guess ownership. I think I was paid well, I was incented well. It wasn't the money necessarily. But when I looked at my career and I spent a long time building this business, I thought, what do I want to do with these next years of my career? That you get to the point where you want to have another chapter. And I did a lot of soul searching on what would make me happy. What do I feel like is missing from my life? And I didn't want to go to the corporate side. I didn't want to go work for somebody else and take on something else's, but having my own agency and building something that I know how to build was the thing that I just kept going back to that. Like, that's the thing I need to do before I say my career is done. This is the one thing that I had not done before. So I just took the leap and made it happen.
It's awesome. What was the hardest thing in the first couple months? I mean, you've been doing it a year. You're over seven figures, which is amazing. What was the hardest thing for you so far?
I think the hardest thing for me is managing the clients and running and building the business. I don't have a lot of our functions are still being developed, like HR and finance and technology and those kinds of, I'm doing a lot of that work as well as, being the primary thought leader for the business and making sure that some of our clients, when we work with big companies that have chosen to work with us, and I'm really hands-on and, so I want to be there for the clients, make sure that they are served well and that they're going to continue to work with us over the long term, but also need to focus on making sure we're building a sustainable business model, and we're developing the team and, putting those things in place. Like, I developed an AI policy the other day where it's like, we need an AI policy. So who's going to do it? Oh, I guess I am. So there's not, I think that's the hardest part is, when you're a functional, and I did the same thing at my former agency, kind of managing the business, but it was a lot more structured because it had been around. But starting from scratch, yeah, there's a lot of work to do when it comes to business operations.
What are some of your next key hires?
Well, I've built a great team so far. I've got a senior vice president who is really excellent. I've got a VP who I used to work with in the past, have a lot of trust in, and another who just recently joined, who I also have a lot of trust in. And then we have a couple of junior colleagues. So I feel like our main team is pretty firm. Um, so I would say probably mid to junior level, is the next kind of group of account people that I need to bring in to provide more support to my senior folks. I would say I started with a senior team. I've got the former head of the Big Ten Network is on staff, a guy who was at Revolution, which is a sports marketing firm, for 15 years. So I've got some really great talent kind of at the senior level. I need to kind of build under that now.
Did it ever stress you out hiring the higher talent first before kind of the lower or the middle?
Yes, it was a big decision to do a full-time hire. I started out with a few independent folks, 1099s, and then decided to bring some people in full time. I think that was and my husband's like, you don't need any employees. I'm like, I need some employees. Like we need people who are here full time thinking about this, and working with me shoulder to shoulder every single day. Because I feel like it would be hard to build a business with all independent folks who give you some time, but aren't necessarily there full time.
Mhm.
But then of course, on the flip side, working with employment taxes and, health and benefits and all of these things. When you have employees, you have to kind of bring into the mix, makes it a little more complex as well. But I really felt like that was important to take the leap and go ahead and hire and make that happen. And I had, I came into the business with a client. So I was like, right away, I was driving revenue. So I didn't pay myself for a while, and I just used the revenue that we had to pay the
Yeah.
employees. Yeah.
What's been the key to getting over the mark so quick?
The key has been former relationships. I've worked with some wonderful companies over the years. We have an interesting, kind of mix of business communications experts as well as sports communications experts and brand activation folks. And so we've really been able to do the left brain, right brain, thing with our clients. So working on thought leadership and social media and content marketing and media relations for business, for professional services, technology, insurance, financial services, those kinds of disciplines, as well as bringing brands to life through fan activation. Like Whirlpool Corporation is one of our clients, and we activate the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship on behalf of the KitchenAid brand. And and that was one of my clients for 12 years. So I was able, without, doing any sort of issues with a non-compete, I was able to bring some of those clients on board, based on, that I'd worked with them in the past. They knew what I could do, and I was building a team, and I was very lucky that they chose to go with a startup.
How did you reach out to them? Because there's a lot of people that are listening that have a big network of people. They've been doing it a long time, but they're actually scared to reach out to their network. So how did you do it? Did you just call them up? Hey, I just want to let you know I started my own agency. This is what we do. Let me know if we can help you out. Or
Yes, definitely. And LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I am a huge believer in. I even will do some LinkedIn training courses for young professionals and executives, just, to help them understand how to use that tool. But it is today's Rolodex. I mean, LinkedIn is a place where I have built my network of people that I've worked with in the past, met on a new business pitch. Just over all the years, I meet someone and I link into them, and it's just been a place where I can go search through and say, oh yes, I remember I had that person that I worked with, 10 years ago. I'm going to let them know I have my own agency now, and that and let them know what I'm doing, and that I'm, eager to do business with them. And that really has paid off, making some of that. We've also done some promotions on LinkedIn. And I think, people like to see people doing things. And so we've gotten some over the transom work. And then there's some vendors like graphic designers, web developers, SEO folks that that I've worked with over many years that have also referred business in, and then current clients and growing with our current clients. So it's really just happened organically. But I would say, do not be afraid to reach out to people and to let them know that you're there and that you're eager to do good work for clients. I think there's a lot of people out there that have agencies or work for agencies, that are, they don't really have fire in their belly. And clients want you to have fire in your belly. Like if you're coming to them and you're saying, I'm going to work harder, I'm going to do everything I can to deliver for you, they're going to feel that, and they're going to believe it. And if you deliver for them, they're going to hire you again. So I think that's where you can, it's not a job. That's what I love about this. Is not a job. This is my company, and I'm super proud of it. So I'm going to work real hard to make sure our clients are happy.
you know, what are the things that you're focused on in the coming year in order to take it up to the next level? What's uh what's the where are you wanting to go?
Um, Someone asked me that the other day, and I said, Well, I just want to have more clients and more people. So that's my goal. If that's a very clear objective. Yeah, it being a little over $1 million today, I still feel like we're not, $1 million in revenue to me seems still unsteady. It's not, if we lose one big client, we're, a $500,000. And like that's the kind of thing where I feel like in order for us to have the revenue that we need to be able to build the operation that we want to build, we probably need to be at least $3 million. So in the short term, I would say that's my goal, is to get to a position where if we did lose a $500,000 client, it would not feel good. We would not be happy, but it would not, be super detrimental to the business. That we'd be able to sustain that. So that's my goal for the short term, to get to 3 million. And who knows after that? I mean, the sky is the limit. As we build our products, our services, I think we need to continue to evolve them. We've got public relations, media relations, social media, content marketing, those kinds of things, thought leadership marketing, influencer marketing. But what else should we be doing that we can take things to the next level? And of course, we're all dealing with things like AI and all of the changes in the world. Want to make sure we're navigating those changes over time pretty well.
Yeah, I always when I talk with our agency members in the mastermind, I always tell them kind of anywhere from 1 to 4 million in revenue, you're kind of in no man's land, because you can get there from a couple clients, but like you're still not at scale where, like, when I remember when we got above that, everything was humming. Like, I didn't feel like I had to do everything. I didn't
Mm.
even know clients that we were bringing in. I didn't even know clients that we were delivering results on. I was just really focused on, being the face of the organization, coaching my leadership, trying to steer the ship and make sure everybody knows where the ship's actually going. So they can either get off the ship or keep paddling in the same direction. And when we could get there, then it was a lot easier. And then there's always, I was telling someone in the mastermind yesterday, because they were like, man, I just feel like we've been in the storm for a while. I'm like, well, you're either in the storm, heading in the storm, or in the storm. Like there's three options. And I also told him too, I was like, what I love about what we do is we help you through the problems, but those solutions create other problems.
Right.
Because
You
you get
never reach
bigger.
your destination. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on
Well,
your way there all the time.
exactly. Well, I always tell people too, I was like, at the end of the day, like, your goal should be this. It shouldn't be like, this is the first year too that we don't have a revenue goal. I basically said we want to take a quarter of our mastermind members and double their EBITDA and reduce their work rate by 25%. So they're not working all the time. That's it. Like, that's how we're going to measure if we were successful or not.
Hmm.
And I tell agency owners too, I'm like, look, you got to think about, it's not all about revenue. Think about if I gave you $1 billion check and, today, what would you do tomorrow? But you couldn't talk to anybody. Probably no one would do it unless the really introverted people be like, great, I don't need to talk to anybody.
I
But
was
you got to
tired of
do it with
everybody anyway.
people, and money's not the biggest thing. I always look back at when we were growing solar, um, the hard times with the people. That's what I always remembered. I don't remember a lot of the wins. Like, I'll talk to my old employees and team members, and they'll be like, "You remember this?" I'm like, "Actually, I don't."
And so you remember most the people, the relationships you built?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the relationships, and the key relationships I remember the most are the ones that we went through hard times. Like,
Yeah.
we had a really hard client, and we, burned the midnight oil working on the project in order to deliver. And it was all hands on deck. And I remember those more than, yeah, we won Affleck's business, or we did Porsche's website. Like, I just remember the hard things were the most memorable. And that's what I try to remind myself when we go into those little dips in this business, be like, cool, I'm gonna remember this.
Yeah,
And
it'll
then you
make an
just keep going.
impression.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of events over the years, like brand activation and sports sponsorship. And I feel like there's such a good intersection of business and sports these days where are kind of bringing brands to life through engaging with an athlete or an event or a league or a team. And those you feel like you've been down in the trenches with your team. You've had, 18-hour days, day after day. No one has slept. You've been going, and like after a while, you're just exhausted, and you're like, that was pretty awesome. It was like, really build relationships with people when you get to know them, working with them for 24 hours a day.
Well, you know how they're made, and they know how you're made. Like, it's like the Mike Tyson quote: "No one knows how you're going to react until you're punched in the face." And so, like, when the company goes through hard times, like, who's going to bail? Who's going to stay?
Right.
Who's gonna step up? And you have a really good team when you don't have to manage them. That's what I love about my team now is I don't have to manage them. I literally say, "Here's the outcome I want. Here's the destination," and then they go make the decisions. And that's what I really want for everyone, because when you have that, then you have freedom. So then, like, we just got back from spring break a little while ago from Mexico, and I had to miss a couple of our mastermind calls. My team's like, "We got you. We got it." No one missed me.
Nice. I
So,
know, not to be missed. Yeah, I'm definitely not there yet. And so, it's, and I think there's that book about working on the business or in the business,
mhm.
like I am still, and I have to give myself a little bit of grace because we've been in business for, 11 and a half months. But it's very reliant on me at the moment. And it's going to take some time to get to that point where you are. So, more
but but
revenue,
the
more smart people to be able to
but that's
manage
the
things.
key, is knowing it, and you're working toward it, right? Like,
Yes.
you have to build systems, you have to build the right team in order to do it, and you realize it's not overnight. Like, everything big starts off small, like everything. Amazon started off like just that weird dude Jeff Bezos in his room, like,
Books.
yeah.
It was books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he probably would be like, "Yeah, $1 billion, I don't have to talk to anybody." He'd probably do that,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just you just gotta figure out kinda what's that destination, and that was always the hardest part for me when I was running the first agency was, what is the end goal? I thought the end goal was to build it up and sell it, but a lot of times when I chat with people now, I'm like, I try to talk them out of selling, because I'm like
Interesting.
"Well, what are you gonna do next?" And they're like, "I don't know. I'll sit on the
Yeah.
beach." I'm like, "Well, that's not gonna work. You're gonna be bored. Like, you've been doing this for how long, and you're gonna go sit on the beach and do nothing?" Like,
Yeah.
your mind won't shut off, and then you'll lose your sense of identity. That's what happened to me. I only tell people to sell their agency if a couple scenarios happen. One, you need the money for, like, medical or something like that. Other one, is specifically what you're gonna do right after. If you're gonna go race cars, perfect. Sell the business, go race cars if you wanna go do that. Like, you have to know what you wanna do after. And then if it's just like you're just at retirement, like you're just like, "I'm done all of work and I wanna retire," perfect, go do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but if you're 30, like I think I was 30, 34, 35 when I sold. Um, like, I'm not gonna retire from there. I thought I was. Like, I'd be like, "Cool, never do anything again." And then I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm bored as hell."
That lasted for 5 minutes. You're like, okay, what am I doing now? I have
And
a business coach, and he says that entrepreneurs need to answer three questions. One, have you done enough? Two, do you have enough? And three, will you have enough to do? And that third question, I think, is the kicker. Like, okay, I've done enough. I kind of don't want to do this anymore. I'm fine financially, but like, what am I going to do with my time if not this? And what will be my purpose at that
yeah,
point?
yeah, and the have I was watching someone on Instagram. He is a young guy, a lot younger than me. He goes around, or like extremely a lot younger than me. I'm old. And he goes around to like 80 and 90-year olds. I was like, what's something that you used to value a lot that you regret you put a lot of time into or something like that? And I'm butchering it,
Hmm.
but they all of them said, we don't care about what people think about me, and we don't care about how much money we have. And what do we all of us really focus on? What do
Yeah.
people think about me? And look at
And
all the
how much
stuff I
money do we
have.
have? Yeah. Interesting.
So I that really when I started listening to the older people on that, like and don't tell the older people I was listening to them. But but yeah, I was like, oh, it's like I need to get rid of some shit.
Yeah, no, stuff is really not, I think about that too because we are called consumers after all. So we like to consume things. Stuff is,
Yeah.
eh.
Yeah. So, but well, this has been amazing, Amy. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
The only piece of advice that I think would be beneficial is that, if there are people listening that are wondering if they should take the leap or wondering if they should do it, I would say take the leap. You have one career, you have one chance, and it's only time, where you're managing your career over time and you can do it. So take the leap, build those relationships, do great work. I mean, our business, the PR business and the agency business is very linear. It's not like we're rocket scientists. We can do this. And I think, if you're wondering if you can do it, I'm saying you can do it. Do it.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And I do believe that you can always grow faster with a group of like-minded people. And I always wanted to be the dumbest person in the room, which wasn't hard. And if you guys are listening and you don't want to do it on your own, because I see a lot of agency owners, they're doing it all on their own. They can't really go to their team to ask a lot of the intimate questions. If you guys want to have a community of like-minded people that are growing agencies, I'd love to invite you all to check out agencymastery360.com and invitation. And then we'll have a conversation. If we feel that we can help you out and you're right for the community, we'll invite you there. So make sure you go there. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.